Welcome to another edition of the CyberDudes podcast. Welcome, CyberDudes. It's episode 15, and we have in store for you today a number of things in the news. What did you have, Omar, for the news piece?
The Department of Homeland Security dropped some exciting roles and responsibilities guidance on how to do AI and not blow the world up.
Very interesting. We will see how long that actually lasts. Given incoming
I want to take the over. I have a kid now. It has to be the over.
That's fair. Elsewhere, we have got also AI grandmas conspiring to irritate and confound scammers. This is my spotlight story, and I absolutely friggin' love it. Then we get into the meat of the episode. We said this one was going to be a short one, but given the holidays coming up, we figured, and also some personal time off and time away in all that context, we considered that actually it made more sense to pull this forward a little bit. We'll be going through holiday scams and festive finagling. I wanted to say something else beginning with F there. So we'll be talking about things such as fake e-commerce sites and deals. We'll go over charity scams and why pictures of sad donkeys are the best way to get Omar's money.
It's my weakness.
We'll be sorting out what sort of unscrupulous 20-something males are conspiring to part you from your cash through social media. And we'll also be talking about delivery notifications as well, namely the ones that aren't so legit. All that and more in the next, hour and 20? Felt about right. Anyway,
sure.
Enjoy. Hello, it's the CyberDudes podcast. Once again, we are on episode 15. I am, once again, Robin Thornton. He is still Omar Sangarima. And we will kick off with, how was that fight last night, Omar? Because we're recording this on a Saturday, so it's the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson farce from what it sounded like.
I just reposted something on LinkedIn where it said, in the 80s, Mike Tyson knocked out Burbick to become one of the youngest heavyweight champions ever. And in 2024, he knocks out Netflix. So he's a software dev / world title holder. Multiple weight classes. God bless him. Please retire forever. Stop. I love you. Stop doing it.
Disappointed he didn't retire as Jake Paul or Logan Paul, whichever one of those idiots.
Both of them at the same time. It was Jake, but I'd love him to put a beating on both of them. It's annoying.
Yeah, very punchable faces. Oh well. Right. Should we get into the news?
Let's.
So straight away into quick headlines from Wired. More spyware, fewer rules. What Trump's return means for US cybersecurity. And as we expect with many things, there are concepts of a plan simply to dismantle everything and rebuild it in a way that is conceptually better, apparently. The nub of this basically being, looks as though they're going to have relaxed rules around cybersecurity on business. There's abandoning human concerns on human rights, but taking an aggressive stance against cyber armies of US adversaries, which is double-edged sword. Seems to be very much, let's strengthen the digital borders, but let anybody do whatever they want within it, which is good for national security to a degree, not particularly good for consumer protection.
Build the black wall.
Good Lord.
Little cyberpunk reference for all of us there. Please, let's do something. Let's try to, if we're going to do concepts of a plan, fuck it. Let's just try stuff.
Moving on, we have from Recorded Future, malware being delivered by mail warns Swiss cyber agency. I think this is quite funny, actually. This is using snail mail to send out QR codes for a new meteorological agency app, and it's actually malware. What a delightful blending of the old and the new, but still shitty behavior from whoever's doing that.
Does the app work though? At least because most weather apps
no, it's just
are
malware.
utter shit. Okay, so in line with other weather apps. That's good to know.
But once again, a reminder of don't be scanning QR codes unless you know that you have a vested interest in doing so.
I just it's the concept of you see a digital hole and you put your finger in it. Like, what are you doing? I don't get it.
Absolutely. Yep. Definitely not. One here from a very rarely cited source. In fact, we've never cited this before. Credit card readers across Israeli stores and gas stations crash in cyber attack. This is from the Jerusalem Post. We never cite them. Simply going
Shout
to
out
say
to our friends at the Jerusalem Post. Shout out. Thank you.
Simply going to say this is, I would suspect this is likely from the Iranians, who are quite cyber capable and also are very much seeking retribution for the treatment of their Arab cousins over the last year and more.
And specifically for explosive crotches.
For that as well. Yeah.
Sacred. You don't do that. You don't blow up another man's junk remotely.
No.
All right. Where's the line? God.
Oh God. Why is that?
I'm almost afraid what that triggered. I'm almost afraid, but let's hear it.
You'll like this. You'll appreciate the reference. That would never happen with Italians. More important than any one man's life is order.
Yes. Listen, good reference. God bless.
Yes. More important than any one man's junk is order. Which actually is the contrary to what you're saying.
I know.
But never mind.
Oh God. Oh Lord.
Pivoting from our first short headline, what have you got for us today, Omar?
Well, not anything I think is nearly as exciting as explosive.
It's also not anything that's going to last for very long, I don't think.
I don't think so either. So we have the department. Yeah, exactly. This is probably like the last gasp of a dying animal, unfortunately, or at least an animal that we recognize as the current Department of Homeland Security, DHS. They put out some new guidance, best practices, rules, and responsibilities for responsible AI. And this is, again, taking that aside, because now I'm even more depressed. I started reading it with a little bit of lightness in my heart. I was hoping for a lot more, but really not much meat on the bone, as is the case even with the most well-intentioned types of releases like this. You have the concepts of a plan. You have the concepts of what cooperation among different sectors could look like in order to come to this is how you do AI safely and responsibly stance within the United States. I think that maybe 3 years ago, this makes more sense to drop. It maybe potentially was not yet ready to come out of the oven, and timing being what it is, this needed to jump out. There's a lot of shared responsibility model rehashing among a lot of the players here. The only big takeaway that gave me any sort of happiness, honestly, was the beginnings of incorporating ethical civil liberty concerns to the AI question. And I use beginnings very loosely because a lot of watchdogs have rightfully been alarmed about that concept from the jump. But I like seeing something that talks about the public sector, talks about cloud developers, talks about critical infrastructure, talks about AI developers unto themselves as potentially working together to do AI in a non-catastrophic way. But again, I'm not very hopeful as to what it could really mean, especially because the big V of it's voluntary is splashed across all of this. It's a nice thought experiment, and maybe one day a certain state will put something remotely looking like a cohesive plan around AI and its responsible use, because that's the best we can hope for in the United States now, is another patchwork of conflicting resolutions and guidelines that go nowhere.
Yeah, and that's the real. I think the only real hope in terms of having anything that looks like consistent, say, implementation or enforcement of sort of best practices is actually from across the pond, from the
Yes.
EU, because
Yep.
wasn't it? I think just Google or Facebook just this last week have been fined something like 839 million for breaches of GDPR or other adjacent regulation.
You hit the nail on the head. It's got to be money. There has to be either from the fine standpoint for regulation, or potentially, let me put on my happy face, from subsidies or incentives. But there has to be some sort of money spigot involved if you want to get folks to act the right way in certain environments. Obviously, the markets have seen that there's money, there's gold in these hills. That's a point that I forgot to mention, and thank you for splashing the money sign around. There's gold in these hills, meaning a lot of private equity firms are getting into buying up cybersecurity concerns. So that for me tells me that there's obviously money sharks going, these things are undervalued, we could make a killing, there's plays to be made. So that tells me that obviously that there's money involved. Also, like you said, the fines, I like where the SEC is going, obviously, with the move on public companies. I don't know if it's going to sustain, right? That's what everyone's waiting with bated breath.
That's not going to
Yeah.
go. That's not going to go
No.
anywhere anyway in
No.
the next 4 years either, because
Of
I
course.
can't remember the guy's name, but he's just said, yeah, I'm probably going to step down because I'd rather jump than be pushed.
Well, it's which sadly, right? We had this same sort of thing happen to Krebs. Speaking of the DHS, back when he said that the election wasn't a complete farce, when it was Trump Biden, he said that, and suddenly, I think they deposited a dead horse head in his bed like that afternoon, right? So he had to mosey on out of there. But so unless there's a stick or a carrot that's not ephemeral attached to something like these DHS guidelines, it really doesn't matter. Hate to say it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's kind of a shame because, I mean, we said this a few weeks ago. It's you can't really trust the people to do the right thing. Regulation is only necessary because you can't trust people to do the right thing, especially when there is money and special interest involved and funding people's Senate and Congress campaigns for re-election, etc. I found that was very, very funny. There's all the stuff that hangs around at the moment on the likes of threads saying, oh, it's very easy to get off Amazon, yada yada. You just go to use Target and Walmart or Costco or whoever else, and and that's how you get away from Bezos donating to the Republican Party. And I went on Open Secrets.
Yes.
Amazon's donations to political parties is straight down the middle. It is almost 50-50.
Why wouldn't you bet the board if you were a gambler of that size and magnitude?
Yeah.
Of course not. Of course you would. Come on.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing, and it's not, it's not that it's equal in every district and every state and every region and all that. They back the horse that backs their interests most in each individual locale. But when you look at it, when you zoom out and you look at it on aggregate, they are pretty much 50-50. There is like a 0.5% difference between each one in terms of who Amazon has donated to. So it's it's kind of nonsense. But you follow the money in terms of seeing how big organizations are getting away with not being regulated, because it does go down to whose election campaign, whose wheels are they greasing.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. We will finish out the news here with I love this. This is a really good story. This is from techspot.com, another source that I'm pretty sure we have never referenced before.
It's
but
no,
the headline,
it's no Jerusalem Post. I want
it's
to say
no,
that.
it's no Jerusalem Post. No. Phone network employs AI grandmother to waste scammers' time with meandering conversations. This is scam baiting, so the art of winding up scammers and wasting their time. Scam baiting Abe Simpson style.
Yes.
Which is so good. Just
It's
rambling, not really going anywhere sorts of stories. And this is absolutely brilliant. So human-like AIs have brought plenty of justifiable concerns about their ability to replace human workers. But a company is turning the tech against one of humanity's biggest scourges, phone scammers. The AI imitates the criminal's most popular target, a senior citizen, who keeps the fraudsters on the phone as long as possible in conversations that go nowhere, a la Grandpa Simpson. So this is actually O2, which is the UK's largest mobile network operator or cell network operator. Daisy, or DAIZ, it's an AI that tricks scammers into thinking they're talking to this real grandmother, and it's absolutely fantastic. There's a video of this that in the link that you can see what has been going on. The tricksters aren't happy about being tricked. They get increasingly angry and sweary, as tends to happen when they start realizing that they've been hoodwinked. The bot's so convincing that it's sometimes managed to keep some people on the phone for 40 minutes.
Brilliant. This is brilliant.
It's so good.
Yes.
It's brilliant. And obviously, don't necessarily need to spell this out, but for the avoidance of doubt, the longer they are on the phone with a non-human entity that is conspiring simply to waste their time, the less able they are to scam actual real people. And this is honestly, I'm surprised this is only just coming up now, because this is the most fantastic way to disincentivize that kind of activity. It's effectively like phone honeypots.
It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. And also, I think you put this sort of use case in front of anyone who's worried about AI, and maybe you could win a couple points towards the it ain't that bad factor. This is an amazing use. It's everything the internet should be. You use tech for trolls and for good times.
It's back to what the internet was made for.
It really, honest to goodness. Let's get Daisy out there. Reading some of the quotes here, going through, I highly recommend listeners click on the video included in here. It is. I was wiping away tears when he sent this to me yesterday. I was showing my wife. I'm gonna bust this out at Thanksgiving. This is gonna be one of my go-tos here. Like, hey, AI used for good, and also I might even show my mother, who this was based on. So there you go.
Yeah. So this isn't being made available to O2 customers. It's a system that is reachable through a certain set of phone numbers that are known to be
for now.
But yeah, for now. See, this is the fantastic thing. Where I would really want this to go to. This technology that was created in response to research that found 71% of the Brits would love to get their revenge on scammers that have tricked them or their loved ones. I really want to see this go to a paradigm where if a call comes through, you have sent a voicemail or send to AI grandma.
Yep.
Because Siri, I would be sending all of those loan phone, like business loan phone calls and hardship loans and all that sort of stuff. All of them are going straight to AI grandma.
100%. Absolutely.
And I will just waste their time. This is far, far, far more effective than having any central authority actually try and go after these people and put them away. Because I mean, at the end of the day, if they do try to do that, they have to go through layers and layers of shell companies upon
Whack-a-mole.
holding. Yeah, exactly. And it just doesn't ever really go anywhere. But if you make the entire endeavor something that doesn't ever actually yield fruit, then there's no point in anybody doing it anymore. It's fantastic.
This is the free market at its finest, in my opinion. I would pay for a subscription service. I'm saying it right now. I absolutely would. If it was an app that I could do, for 100%.
And this is absolutely, I mean, you mentioned the free market there. This is absolutely one of those instances where I would say, yeah, do you know what? Actually, leaving stuff in the hands of the free market as opposed to leaving it down to central governments or authorities to sort out is a far better scenario, because this is, I doubt any government would ever have really thought about this or had the ingenuity or creativity to think about something like this. But hats off to O2. Top job.
Yep.
Okay, moving into a related topic, we are going to spend the next 40-something minutes and change talking about festive season scams. We are coming into Thanksgiving, Christmas time, and with Black Friday, Cyber Monday coming up.
Hanukkah. I want to again shout out to the Jerusalem Post. Right, like I don't want to leave our brethren out here. All right, it's festive season for everyone. Yes.
Yes. With the rapid onset of the Cyber Week and Black Friday, Cyber Monday sales, the estimates are somewhere in the region of about $40 billion to be spent in the US alone over that 5-day period. Yeah, I know, it's obscene. It doesn't look that bad when you boil it down to when you say let's take kids out of the equation. 330 million people in the States. Kids probably, I don't know what, 50 to 70 million of those. So remove them, but that's still like 250 plus million people. You divide 40 billion by 250 million, it's actually not that much. It's kind of just like, oh, you're spending $60 on Amazon over the course of 5 days or something like that. But not everybody's going to do it. So actually some people are dropping some serious cash.
Yeah.
And so where there is that much online e-commerce trade to be done, there's an awful lot of opportunity for scammers, is there not?
You rob banks because that's where the money is. Carry that through the digital age, and here we are.
Absolutely. And yeah, probably an awful lot easier to rob many people who don't have their guard up than one big bank that has lots of fences and cameras and guardrails in the way, right?
It's much more profitable. If you look up the stats on what bank robberies usually net, which I don't know why I did, but I did, it's really not a lot of money. Right? It's a few $1,000s for all that hassle, and it ends up with a disproportionate amount of the perpetrators, justifiably so. I'm not out here going anarchy, in jail. So if one was inclined to such nefariousness, this is a much easier and a much more potentially profitable way to go.
Definitely. And it does remind me a little bit the opening dialogues of Layer Cake. He's talking about the drug trade, and it's in the 70s, and you've got guys who are doing a 15 to 20 stretch for armed robbery for a 30 grand payoff, and then you've got some hippie in there for 6 months for moving $500,000 of blow, or £500,000 worth of blow. And the line is, we're in the wrong fucking game, mate.
That's classic, lovely reference, first and foremost, I want to say. Great movie. And also, absolutely, right? Like, you would think for all the hassle that it's going to get you, potential also losing your life, right, in the transaction, if there's a shootout of any sort or somebody gets crazy. This is absolutely an easier way to get some ill-gotten gains.
Yeah, definitely. So let's dive into it. Let's look at the... my camera's going wobbly there. Let's dive into it. Let's look at some of the variations of those kinds of scams, what they look like, why they arise, and how to avoid them. I mean, we should also preface this as well with lots of this sort of stuff is kind of evergreen. It's year round. There's just a particular uptick of it at this time of year because of the amount of online transaction activity that goes on. But first on our list, we've got fake e-commerce sites and deals. What do these tend to look like to you?
They all look like toogoodtobetrue.com. It's gonna be places where either I've seen them done like watering hole status. So it's you wait for the folks to go to potentially legitimate areas and then you sit there and you typo squat. Or you drop a malicious advertisement somewhere and then you have folks clicking and going to something else. It can be varied levels of effort put in, where sometimes it can just be the classic, as we mentioned, I think a couple of episodes ago, where it's the same thing as putting in like an illicit login page for Microsoft stuff. You try it, and then, oh crap, but you've essentially put in your real credentials and then you're getting hijacked. You can go that low tech route because it's easy to just put on a page that looks really like a login page, or you can go further and gin up a complete offer where, hey, you're looking at that MacBook Air. I got these for $500. I started this rant with, if it's too good to be true, it is. There's nothing new under the sun. I know that there's some deals that are gettable in certain places. The digital equivalent of doorbuster sales are a thing that major online retailers do use. They get you with some, oh wow, a Kindle is $5, and while you're here, you're going to spend enough to make up the shortfall. Great. But in many cases, folks, if you know that there's no possible way that someone on the other end doing it legitimately is going to make any kind of money on giving you something for that much of a discount, please stop and check your thinking for a second.
Yep. I'd say even with that, I mean, if it's deals that look too good to be true aren't bad in of themselves if they are from a very well-known, trusted retailer, because at very worst, that is a pricing error that either they are going to reverse and say, sorry, this was an accident, and there is precedent in law as to say, because retailers have to offer marked prices as it exists, but within a realm of reasonability. So if you were to be, say, for instance, you're on Carvana and you see a BMW 5 Series for $100, that is quite obviously an error. No court is going to hold up your claim that they should honor that price because they go, look, it's a $70,000 car. That's just there's no way. But if we're looking something more like, I don't know, say a Sonos speaker that retails at $500 and it's up there at $175, you get into the territory of actually, that could just be a really, really good deal, and maybe Amazon or whoever have to go, yeah, fine, all right, we'll eat it on that one.
That's a fake Sonos speaker. I'm like this. I get where you're coming from. I do, but I don't know, man. Like,
well, that depends on with the Amazon example. That depends on who that's like shipped and fulfilled by, sort of thing. If it is Amazon, then yeah. If it's a third-party seller, then yeah, you are probably looking at a fake. But I don't know, all right. Say it was Target or Best Buy or something like that. I mean, I think I would actually, out of all of them, I would probably put Best Buy up there as the most likely to have a wild pricing error, because
Sure.
their markup, that then their outside of sales times are such wild markups anyway that they all look like pricing errors to begin with.
Yes, and they've had situations, I think, where they've got on some prices online as well. A couple of examples are coming to me, and for some reason I'm seeing the blue in my mind of Target. But
Yeah.
there's been a couple of situations where folks have just eaten it. But still, man, I'm leery. If I see something and I'm like, this, there's no way, how are they making cash? At the very least, for me, my thought then goes to, I have to sign up for something, and they're getting me that way in order for me to try to get this. And then that is not necessarily, it's one of those gray areas where I could see a Best Buy wanting to harvest my information and then market to me ad infinitum until the end of time.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that as a cost to pay. Maybe potentially there, I'm going, okay, it's worth it to get, a $500 speaker for $175. But even then, I'm still leery. I still might give them a Fugazi or a burner or an email address that I set up to specifically hand off for these sorts of deals where I'm like, okay, I could save a couple bucks, but it's not like my daily driver of an account.
Yeah. Now, I mean, what I will say about this as well is that, I mean, you make a good point there about, being wary of these kinds of these just too good to be true. There's two different flavors of this, because let's dial all the way back to the beginning of the fake e-commerce sites piece. What we're really talking about there is, as we said, there's variations of them, but things that are like poisoned advertising, sponsored links on Google set up in bad faith that lead through to what might be a legitimate looking front end, but then when you hit add to cart, it sends you through to a very illegitimate back end sort of website that you still think that you're getting the deal that you are that you've seen advertised, but when you put in your details, either you're in a situation where the transaction doesn't go through and those details have just been skimmed, or maybe the transaction does go through, you never get your item, or you do get something, but it turns out just to be like a brick in a box for the sake of the shipping or something like that. That did fly around quite for a little while with PS5s when there was a shortage of them.
I remember that all too keenly, and sadly, I was partaking in the watching the bad reactions, and then the follow on from that. And this is terrible, and definitely before I had any kids, were the reactions of parents just doing that to their kids anyway, where it's a PS5 box and then you got like coloring shit or something in there. Like that's a way to get Menendez, in my opinion. So I don't play that. I'm not. I'll troll my kid, but I ain't doing that shit. Like that's crazy.
That is a dark reference there.
I mean, but think about it, man. You're 10 years old. You're over the moon that you think, and you're getting a PS5. You kind of have an idea that maybe this is something your parents can't afford, but you go, oh, maybe they love me and shit. You bust it open, and it's some cardboard and newspaper. Oh man, I'm plotting on that person's demise.
I'm not gonna lie. Once or twice, my dad did that. And Dad, if you're listening, because I know that he does, thought you were a funny fucker, didn't you? That did breed a couple of years of resentment. Now I do look at it and think, funny crass.
Yeah. But my parents did the opposite. I remember they hid the Nintendo, and this is how old I am. They hid the original Nintendo in another box, and they put clothes on top of it.
Yeah.
So I was pissed that I was getting another shitty sweater. And then they were like, did you look at the rest of the box? And I'm like, why the hell? There's going to be socks and shit in there, right? I was like 5. And they're like, no. See, that made my day, right? Like, but I'm never doing that to my kid. That's just mean. Sorry.
Yeah, that's one of those things. It's pretty low down the list, but it's one of those things that comes up in therapy.
Right. I'll be paying for it later, right?
Yeah.
If I don't want to spring for the PS6 or whatever the hell it is at that stage, I'll be paying for it down the road. Dude, that's a good point.
Definitely. That said, let's round this one out. I mean, all right, okay. So you can say, I mean, okay. So in the event that sometimes these, you are on a legitimate site, it is an Amazon, it is a Best Buy, it is a deal that looks too good to be true, but it could be legit, right? You don't want to miss out on the deal. How are you protecting yourself from it could be, it maybe not, I don't know, because I know what I'm doing.
Credit card, right? Is that where you're going?
Credit card.
100%. Dude, that's
always use someone else's money, right?
Yeah, period.
Always use someone else's money.
You get that pit bull of a company that's going to do either one of two things.
Yeah.
A pit bull's going to do pit bull shit and claw that back, find a way, period, end of story, which is good because they're scammers, fuck them. Or it's a rich pit bull, they're going to eat it themselves. Either way, it's not dipping into your hard-earned actual digital dollars. Please, if you are somehow still, to this day, shopping online with your debit card,
just don't.
What are you doing? Or I was going to say something cheeky and be like, hey, let's do business because I want to rob you. But like, what exactly? You know what I mean? What's going on here? Please, just get one. It doesn't even have to be some wild, amount because you don't want to be on the hook for like a big spending limit because that can get a little messy here. But something reasonable. But there's no reason for you to be using your debit card online nowadays that I can think of, truly. And if you can have something that you want to come back at us with, let us know in the comments. I genuinely would be interested in hearing some legitimate use cases.
The only thing that I can think of is like paying my water bill or something like that. It's where it's specific, or like they'll charge you a fee for using credit,
okay,
right?
Sure.
But those cases are very, very far and few between. Now, speaking of credit cards, for what we should say right at the very start, and you alluded to it as well, be responsible with this stuff. It's very easy to run up a large bill because you're not seeing it on a day-to-day basis in your account. Yes. It's easy to run up a large bill on a credit card that you then get to the end of the month and go, oh crap, now I can't pay this. So like you say, keep a sensible limit for any credit card that you do get. If you do not have a credit card or you are in the market for a new one, we have some offers in the comments down below. There's statement credits on each of them. There's Amex, there's Capital One, there is Discover card as well. And each one of these, it's a spend $1,000 within the first 3 months, get a $200 or $300, or I think in the case of Amex, $150 sign up credit. Or if you plumb for, there is an Amex Platinum in there, 150,000 Amex points off the bat. It's a pricier card. It's a premium thing. It's for if you travel and whatnot. You do make back the annual fee on the perks if you use them wisely. But yeah, those are all there. Check them out if you are still spending online with a debit card, because with the credit card, it's not your money, right? And my absolute favorite thing, if ever I do have to do something goes wrong and I do have to do a chargeback, it's delightful knowing that when you are successful in a chargeback, whoever screwed you over gets punished because it costs them money. The card issuer does charge them over and above the amount that they claw back as a disincentive for screwing over their customers. So it's just a nice little retribution there. What else do we have? We've got phishing emails and texts. Now this is a year-round thing. It's evergreen, but these do ramp up, and it can be this. These too good to be true offers, not that you've gone and found it yourself, but it's getting pushed at you because you're going to be getting a load of other deal and marketing emails anyway. So it's going to be difficult to distinguish what's legit from what's spammy. What's your take on this one?
It's going to be banking on the inundation factor, as you said, especially I want to say right now, because we just came out of the election cycle. Everyone was getting those political emails, the text messages. I was getting snail mail. you register in a certain way and suddenly you're the belle of the ball and everyone wants to court your vote, I guess. But that is not, it just died down. And now I'm starting to get stuff, emails and offers from folks that are somewhat respectful the rest of the year, I will say, but they know that they're going to potentially make their nut at the end of the year. Who wouldn't, right? If I was a purveyor of goods and services, I would do likewise.
Yep.
Again, though, the same advice that we give year round for these types of things helps you out now, right? Take a second, take a beat, make sure it's from a legitimate sender. First and foremost, it could look like an Amazon email, but if it's Amazon and then 35 letters and gmail.com, more than likely it's not going to be an Amazon address. Now, that's not nearly as bulletproof as it used to be. Robin, I know that you're well versed in these dark art machinations of you can just now hide what that header looks like. You can hide what that return address looks like, or you can spoof it to make it look a heck of a lot more accurate to what it should be. Still, though, be careful on what you're clicking in your inbox.
Yeah. Now, I have to be honest, my caveat on that one is, and you'll see this all over the likes of Reddit and any cybersecurity forum, people of real technical ability saying, oh, spoofing the email address is trivial. Yes, if you know how to do it. Most people don't. Most scammers don't. So what they are going to do, they're going to do the next best thing, which is to give you a convincing looking display name. And probably most people, I would hazard, only really do look at the display name. They don't necessarily look at the actual email address in the triangular brackets. But even with that email address in the triangular brackets, they're going to do something called typo squatting, which is something that looks very, very close, either through replacing a capital I with an L or vice versa, or using different character sets, maybe using a one of the Cyrillic characters that looks like an A but isn't an A, something like that. There's plenty of different characters that look close enough to A to Z, 0 to 9 in the Western, in the Latin alphabet, right? That they can lean on in order to have you think that it's coming from a legitimate email address and or domain. And yeah, that's just a neat little trick around human psychology and optics. Reading is, you don't read each individual letter when you're reading a passage of text. You don't necessarily process each individual word. A lot of it is pattern recognition, right?
A book would take 4 years. It wouldn't. Yeah. There's no way. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's experiments for that as well. There's like things where you can, the passages of text where certain letters are missed out, like the beginning's there, the middle's there, the end is there, and then all the letters in between kind of get obfuscated or missed out. And your brain just sort of fills in the gaps. And to a relatively high degree of accuracy, it kind of gets the majority of it right. So be wary of that typo squatting piece. And but to that point, to the earlier point, it's just an increased volume, and it's the inundation factor, as you said. So be wary of those emails, messages that you are getting. Cobble it together with what we were saying in the last point as well. Consider the too good to be true factor.
And I'm going to use one of your tips that you give, our faithful brethren at our 9 to 5. If you're getting a good offer, if something seems, I have to take a look at this, fine. We're not here to gum up the works of free commerce. Go to the site independently. If the offer is something that they're looking to drive numbers, to drive visitors, to drive purchases, then it's probably, chances are, going to be on the banner when you go to the legitimate site that you navigate to independently, not clicking through whatever booby trap may or may not be in the email. You can go to the website and lo and behold, oh snap, $15 off of a fresh pair of kicks, what I was looking for, or what have you. Do that instead.
Yeah. And I'd add to that even then as well. And if the doubt's still there, or you're really unsure, consider this. Better to miss out on the big deal than fall for the huge scam.
Brilliant. That should be the tagline. Shit, that's going to be our tagline for the rest of the show, as long as we do this. That is a brilliant, honestly.
Oh, there was something else I came up with the other day that I can't remember. Oh, it was absolutely. It was like, yeah, that's hit the nail on the head. Damn,
It'll come back. It'll come back. You have faith.
Yeah. Oh no, it's something I said with Will. Anyway, moving on. Also, so next one, fake charity scams. Now, why this time of year? I wonder. Goodwill to all men and things.
Yes. Hey, I mean,
all persons
I'll say this.
Should be.
Please.
It's 2024, isn't it?
Good Lord. All right, I know it's
don't
Trump's
want the
America,
inclusivity police on us.
But let's not get carried away here. I will say, from a personal standpoint, here's the thing. Maybe not scams, but a little bit of the inundation factor here. I love me animals, and on a trip last year to do some conferences for October, right, for Cyber Month, I tried to lie to my wife and say, let's go to Florida. I'm taking you on a trip. And it wasn't, it was more so, we're just hung around in hotels and while I did talk. So she still is mad about that to this day. However, one of the things she's also pissed about is that I got not suckered in because, I could have canceled my donation to ASPCA at any time. But I saw a kid who was hawking donation signups in front of, I think, like a Kroger or Piggly Wiggly, whatever the hell that passes for a grocery store down there. And it tugged at my heartstrings. It was the animals, and it was I remember having to sell candy bars to fund sports stuff as a kid. So I was like, fuck it, let me do it. Brother, let me tell you, I'm on like 6 lists. I get sent wild stuff through the mail. One of them was, and the thing is, this I'm a sucker now at this point, bro, because they sent me something about some like donkey refuge was one that I got as a result of this, and they beat the shit out of these donkeys. They throw bottles. I felt super. I couldn't keep reading it, right? I felt awful. They had a picture of a sad donkey on the front thing. The other day I don't know if this is because my heritage or whatever. I really don't but like I'm also now on a list for helping young Native American kids that are being helped out by Catholic missionaries. And I'm like, I don't understand. Like, isn't the trust not there anymore? I don't understand it, brother.
Why does that sound like the beginning of a joke, like a Native American kid and a Catholic missionary walk into a bar?
Oh, listen, I mean, it probably happened more than once. I mean, that's probably why the joke. It's a terrible joke, but or a Leonardo DiCaprio movie, right? Little Killers of the Flower Moon springs to mind.
4 hours.
Listen, now Scorsese used to make us sit 3 hours when he knew we were at a theater. Now that he knows the bathroom is 2 feet away, he don't give a fuck anymore. All right, he's just letting it ride.
Did I tell you my theory on that, or did we? We might have actually said it on a previous episode, where he was always when he was releasing films into the theaters, it's got to be at behest of the movie execs because it's a matter of like, Martin, nobody's going to sit there for 3.5 hours without needing to take a piss. Like, at least if you're going to insist on this, then we've got to have an intermission. Like, no, we can't have an intermission. It's like, oh, okay, well, 2 hours 45 because nobody's going to sit there longer than that. Oh, okay, fine. Now it's all streaming. He's there like, I'll make it 5 hours. I'm going to make Ben-Hur look like an advert.
How did you? I was going for Ben-Hur as well. So kudos there. We can tell we're friends. But yeah, good grief, man. Like at this point, he's just make it a show. Give yourself 8 to 10 hours and tell me a longer story, Marty. You're a good storyteller. You're pretty decent at that shit. So take your time. But you know what? Give me some breathing points.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes I can't handle 6 hours of pathos to the level that a Scorsese will try to hit you with. Right. Sometimes it's a little tough. I'm thinking about you, Irishman, around Thanksgiving. I wasn't ready for that shit.
I couldn't I turned it off after about 2 hours of just turgidness. It was awful.
No, dude, it was turgidness. It was also like I wasn't hammered enough to glide through. It was the holidays, so I was already dealing with family nonsense. Like it was a perfect storm of I can't do this, Marty. All right, I can't give you my heart for any much longer. All right, I need it back, and I need to go to sleep. So, back to
we digress.
Where the hell the scams,
the donkeys.
Right? So I'm on the sad donkeys. Here we go. I'm gonna be fucked up for the rest of the day. But I'm on lists, and of course, right now, that's when you're gonna ramp up the spirit of giving, the festivity season, the holiday season. I know. Again, we talked about the AI grandmother. I know at least 3 or 4 grandmas who are on list 10 hands long, where they put their hand out digitally or snail mail wise at this time of year, and people that sometimes can't afford it are given. It's predatory at a certain extent, and the same thing I think goes for the fake charities. Obviously, it's turned up to an 11, and not only is it you're asking folks during a time when maybe they're more inclined to give because they're just feeling sappy about shitty family life or whatever, or maybe that's just me. But then over and above and beyond that, then you add the fact that it's a fake charity and the money's going to a scammer anyway.
Yep. Definitely. Just going into a black hole. Now, I will say this because I know I've been looking at the stats recently. Our core demographic for this is the 25 to 34 age bracket, quite firmly.
There you go.
And the next one down being the 35 to 44. Please, we are not going to pitch this appeal at the pensioners in the audience because there are very few of them. We're going to pitch it at you guys, the 25 to 45, the 2 brackets that sit in there. This holiday season, please, for the love of God, have a discussion with your parents and or grandparents about this kind of thing. Wouldn't necessarily say have a good lecture to them about be careful, etc., etc. Ask some questions, see what there has been going on, ask what they've been seeing, that kind of thing, if they have seen anything of this sort of ilk. And depending on where that goes, hand over some advice about being careful, point them to this, and maybe that'll help out a little bit. And if you're in the UK, pray that AI grandma does her job properly.
AI grandma has the hopes of an entire continent there, honestly.
I cannot stress how much I want that as Apple to put that in as a function, just like pensioner Siri.
Yeah.
Just to send the robocalls through to that. And just have robots talking to robots. Be hilarious.
I mean, that's how I think you have Terminator movies start on, quite frankly. But barring that, they
just get so irate at wasting each other's time. They turn on the masters.
They turn on us. But you brought up the point of, and I think it was a very well thought out one, where the remote control features on new iPhones, right, coming out with from the new operating systems, were a good way to help out older folks when you needed to do some remote tech support. And hey, anybody even remotely associated with this field is going to be hit up at the holidays for tech support, even if it's completely not your bag. We all know you work with computers. Fix my Honda. Weird. But this is also, I think, another feature that could be really marketed at that demographic. I think that's spot on, where it's just protections against folks, because it's 2 things. They're older and more susceptible. And also, I'm going to go back to one of my favorite lines here, if you've been listening for any length of time. It's where the money is. That demographic is where the cash is. So let's, AI grandma needs to happen. This episode turned into, I'm going to try to make this happen locally. I'm so jazzed about this concept, but please, after you.
computer nonnas. Okay.
that could go so sideways though, bro. I'm not.
Go on, how?
I'm not. Hey, all right. So
it's like what,
I
like the restaurant in Staten Island, but instead of making you like your Italian meal, it's nonnas making the computers and what I don't know.
Nah, listen. I know this thing already gets an NSFW tag, but I don't want to fully embrace that dark side of the force. So let's just gloss over it. Like,
Oh no,
you know.
I was thinking like a computer sort of like cozy, like made out of cross stitch or something like that. Like,
See, that could work.
yeah,
That could work. I've seen tattoos in that style now, and it's intriguing. It's an intriguing aesthetic. Yeah,
weird. We could have some odd avenues on this.
we do.
Gift card scams. This has got a slightly different tone during, or at least to the context of the holiday season. It's probably a slightly different context to what's normal, because scammers will love having you buy the gift cards, send them the codes under the auspices of paying a debt or a fine or staying out of jail when Sheriff Dave with a suspiciously strong South Asian accent calls up threatening to send officers around to your home. What we've got here is set up websites selling gift cards at discounted rates, which I don't know how that would ever really work as good business sense for anybody pitching those. So that would be red flag number one for me right there. But it's not to say that people wouldn't fall for it. And maybe this is one of the areas where actually the credit card advice couldn't necessarily work, because you can't always buy gift cards on credit card.
The only time that I've seen this that's remotely legitimate is in those situations if you have any sort of family that are selling you mums or Girl Scout cookies or whatever the hell to support the local stuff. Potentially you'll see where, hey, you can buy $50 gift card for $48. It's never going to be a wild discount. And more often than not, I've seen that's even a point where you have to unlock that tier by buying $100 worth of swag anyway, which again, you're helping out supposedly a family member or some, rando kid you saw that's pitching whatever.
Yep.
But very, like you said, I think the first barrier of defense is that the too good to be true really applies here more so than even I think on the other offers. Yeah. There's really truly no way. I know it's recency bias and I've been rewatching The Sopranos, but I'm reminded of the phone card scams that used to be prevalent, right? With the international audiences. That was a whole thing. It's just there's no way to really create enough room for people to be making enough money to do this legitimately. Therefore, if you're getting pitched cheaper gift cards, buyer beware.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing, really, because it is very much a matter of, hey, look, I'll trade you your $50 bill for these two $40 bills, and nobody two $40 bills, two $20 bills, and nobody.
Hey, but that's more of a scam too. I love that.
The $40 bill, yeah.
Keep the two $40 bills. Shit, it makes more sense. Like it works for our purposes. Because I was like, hold on.
But it's like, yeah, I'll trade you your $50 bill for these two 20s. I mean, in no universe is that a good trade, unless there's something very, very specific about those two $20 bills.
Don't do that, bro. Right? Like charities don't. Like, come on now.
No, it's just giving away money. Like now, you do, you make a good point there with the Girl Scout stuff. I have seen this at the likes of Sam's and Costco as well, where you do get discounted gift cards. However, for one, those prices miss off the tax. So once you put the tax on, you also do get much closer to the face value. And then, even then, like you said, the discount is only very, very slight. And the advantage to the vendor, for example, be it Sony with PlayStation Network or Buffalo Wild Wings or Domino's Pizza or something like that,
That's
is
quite a
that
mix.
when
God
those
bless.
get sold, yeah, I'm just thinking what I
No,
see it
that
sounds,
sounds
to
like
be
a
honest, but
party. I'm
yeah,
here for it.
yeah,
Like that sounds pretty awesome.
wings,
Sorry.
pizza, and PlayStation, yeah.
Fuck, let's do it.
But the advantage for them, and even then, this still does only work on reasonably small percentage differentials,
Yeah.
is that they get the cash up front and you become a wait, which way around is it? Debtor, creditor. You're a creditor. They owe you stuff for what you've already paid for, but it flattens their balance sheet in the short term. Now, that's never a particularly good place to be, as I have seen from seeing companies go bust back in the UK in the aftermath of the 2008 crisis. Is you have a gift card for HMV, which was a record store, or some other business, I don't know, JJB Sports or something like that. Well, no, not Tesco, because Tesco haven't gone bump, but all of the stores that did get wiped out by basically online, like streaming and online game purchases and all of that sort of stuff, basically digital media. All of those stores that just try to persist with an unsustainable business model, they all went bump. And if you had like a £50 or £100 gift card, and it's worthless, because you're so far down the list of people who they owe money. You're never going to see that again. You might see 10 cents on the dollar for it, but you're never going to get your full value back. And so that's how they can get away with that, selling at a slight, basically cash at a slight discount. But
there's a avenue that I thought you were going to go, especially with those bulk retailers.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, Robin, what are you doing? You're paying a subscription fee even for the privilege. So if you net out that, then could be an example of a situation where, okay, it does make economic sense to sell these at a slight discount if you're banging people for $100 a year to even walk in and buy at the store. So again, that's more of a, I want to bring that up because then, okay, there's factors that make this economically viable at scale for the party making the offer. If that's lacking in any of the calculus that you're looking at, I hate to say it, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, but hell, I think I started at the high point of the DHS stuff, and then I just went downhill talking about families and celebrations and festivities. But you're more often than not the person that found the gold bullion with a metal detector at the beach. All right, you're probably getting got. So just really pump the brakes and analyze it to see if there's an angle where somebody is making money. Because if not, then why the hell would it be offered commerce-wise to begin with? End of story. It just wouldn't be a thing.
Definitely. Next one, we've got social media promotions. Our notes here say that social media holiday promotions. I actually want to make this a little bit more generic, which is social media based scams or promotions that end up looking like, or end up being the scams, because anybody with a Facebook or Instagram or X or what's the other one, Threads account will know that it is not hard. Well, not Threads, because they don't do advertising on there yet, but anybody with one of those accounts will know that it is now very feasible, and actually quite affordable to turn your posts into adverts, sponsored posts, right, and get them a little bit more visibility. And there's an awful lot of selling that goes on through there. Now, I want to see if your head is where mine is at in that sort of regard. When you hit one of those shop now buttons on one of those social media posts, where does that tend to send you, or what's the difficulty that you find in when that interface comes up?
If you
find one at all,
the first thing I usually see is you got to sign up for something. A lot of those shop nows is they want to harvest you to then market to you forevermore. So that, in a weird way, in an odd way, is a legitimizing factor for the transaction. Slightly. A very, if we're being even-handed in our analysis here, and we're trying to show you both sides, and this is not, I want to make a quick disclaimer. Robin and I both shop online. Everybody does. So it's not like we're sitting here on a high horse saying, oh, all these non-tech focused plebes are buying online and getting their stuff stolen. No, this is stuff that we grapple with as well. I'm positive that I've clicked on a couple things and gone down a couple of steps of a rabbit hole before my spidey sense takes the best of me and say, bro, you're not going to find that for this price. Stop it, right? And usually, again, I'm going to bring up family stuff. I hear the disembodied force ghost of my father going, please don't get robbed, both in English and in Spanish. And that usually stops me. And I take a beat and I roll it back. Yeah. So that's the first thing that I'll see here, first and foremost. Number two, if that thing sends me to a payment processing front end that I don't recognize at this stage of my digital life, fuck you. I do not care. I do not care. And if it's really bad and I'm just feeling really spicy, maybe had a couple daddy sodas, who knows, right? I very well might then strike up a conversation with whoever's handling the social media presence of whatever influencer got me to click in the first place. And I'm having a little fun with them at their expense going, really? You have 17 payment processors to choose from now online, and you're going with whatever the fuck.com? How? Why? For God's sakes. Like, like Square charges you a couple points at this point, and that's in terms of the safety and the legitimacy factor, that's the best you're going to get. Trying to squeeze 3/4 of another point by having your shit funneled through Sweden, Russia, and Romania ain't the move, dog. Please. Sorry, I'll stop. I get heated.
How is the view from on top of the soapbox there?
Oh no, because this kid's making $9,000 million. We're out here humping a 9 to 5, right? Like you caught me at the right time to talk about this bullshit because I just saw the Paul Tyson fight last night, right? And
yes.
I was reminded of how he came to whatever prominence he's in right now. So,
which I fucking love that as a segue, because in my head as well was I really want to put this forward in the caveat of lots of this social media stuff it's not a scam in the purest sense, in that they steal your money and then you don't get anything. Some of these are actual, legitimate working shop fronts, but a lot of them are, how do I pitch this? Edgy fuckboys with a drop shipping operation, and all they're doing is they are charging you straight up Western prices for things that are for low grade crap at a 5,000% markup that is getting shipped direct from China. And social media is full of this stuff. So you pay for it, you get your item 6 weeks later after it's been held up at the Suez Canal because a tanker got friggin' wedged in it or something like that. Probably more like 18 weeks later in that scenario. But then you get it and you realize, forget you bought it. And then, interestingly enough, that happened with the missus a few days ago. We saw it kept seeing on the postal service sort of delivery preview thing, something like this. Like it was like HK JFK, and it was awaiting from sender. And we were there like, it's been awaiting from sender for 2 weeks now. What the hell is this? And then I went, did you order something from China? And she goes, oh yeah, I did. I was like, HK JFK, it's coming from Hong Kong into JFK, which is why it has that. Yeah. So, but anyway, but the point is, like, yes, you pay your money, you do eventually receive your goods. When you get it, it's kind of shitty, crap quality, and basically the scam is that you just paid way over the odds, and some dude is just lounging around on South Beach with a bunch of scantily clad women at your expense. So I'm not bitter that I can't spend my time on South Beach.
Listen, I mean, we take just talk about charities, right? It's essentially a legitimate charity.
It is, yeah, it's a charity. You're just paying into the Paul brothers pension fund.
Yeah.
In effect. Or padding out their crypto investments.
That's much more accurate, sir. Let's be 100% real.
Which incidentally, I wouldn't say do it right now because the price is looking a little bit toppy. But if you do want to get into crypto at any point, don't be drawn in by the scams. Use a legitimate exchange, something like Coinbase, which I use. There's an offer down in the comments, $10 worth of Bitcoin, which is like the teeniest, tiniest fraction of a Bitcoin when it's like $90,000 like a coin.
Toenail dust of a Bitcoin.
Toenail dust of a Bitcoin. But it's a start. And especially, if the price keeps going stratospheric, then the 10 could be worth 20.
To the moon.
But it's free money. So yeah, to the moon. Where was I rounding out with this? Be wary of the social media stuff. What I tend to do, and where I was curious to see whether you were going to take it there, but you went in a different, albeit just as valuable direction. The social media app browsers often don't give you as full a picture of what the site is, who it's being run by, as if you go and open it in your native device browser, be that Safari, be it Chrome, be it Edge, right? So I always tell my social media app of choice, whichever one it is I'm in at the time, when I'm in one of those browser windows, top right corner, open in browser, it brings it up in something that I'm more familiar with, and I can look through with a little bit more detail and see where all of that is.
And sometimes, to that point, scammers will only build out the ridiculous fronts for that viewership, meaning they're hoping that you don't do what you just said.
Yeah. They're also hoping that you don't do things like go into Google and search whatever made up brand name
XYZ a scam.
Whatever brand name it is for look nice on social media, waffle weave, jumpery t-shirt things with the quarter zip. I'm thinking of a specific example that I clicked on.
That really sounded very specific. I was going to say that.
I was like looking at it and thinking like, that looks quite nice. It also looks as though it could quite easily be cheap Chinese shit like sent to me by a drop shipper. And lo and behold, it was. It was all the reviews are very, very lousy on it. Once again, it's one of those things where actually there's a lot of the stuff that you will see, a lot of the branded things that you will see, and this applies to the likes of Amazon and eBay and Walmart's third-party online selling sort of stuff. A lot of the branded things that you will see is cheap, generic crap from China that has just had somebody's brand slapped on it. There might be four or five different branded products that are all fundamentally the same item that have come out of the same factory from the same assembly line, and they just have a different branding on them. So kind of be wary that happens as well. Which
when it's supplements, you got to watch out, because then that's how you piss hot, right? So be careful. Just theoretically, I've heard.
Go to the loo in the middle of the night and ooh, it's spicy. No,
it's not melted the bowl. Holy shit!
It.
I can't. No, that's just not all just greens. They promised me a package of greens. Oh, there's some reds in it.
Grim. Rounding out, and speaking of forgetting what you've ordered, fake delivery notifications. Now, these will be absolutely rife for like probably the next 3 months. Because be honest, you ever got home and seen a package and gone, the fuck is this?
Many times. Super many times. My wife is one of the loyal listeners here. She knows it's only a slight dig at you, sweetheart. It really is only slightly. But there's a ton of times where I'm like, we can build a cardboard fortress with what's going on. But nowadays, this time of year, the hell else are you going to do, right? Are you going to go actually to a physical place and shop? Gee, good Lord, no. That sounds like the sixth circle of hell to me. It always has, and that's why I've embraced online shopping to the tune that I have. However, these things are they're classic all year round. So that's a good point, Robin. These things are stuff that, and same sort of concept when you're tax time. Hey, we've, et cetera, et cetera. So be that as it may, though, right now, when you're legitimately expecting some packages, this is a much more fruitful time for scammers of this nature.
Definitely. And these will come up in, I mean, you might think about it from the perspective of a lot of the time it's going to be a text message, right? For the USPS one, the favored delivery is text message. And the typical narrative is there's a problem with delivering your package. Your package has been on hold with the sort of last mile distributor, whoever it may be. Click here at this link because either we need information from you, and here's where is the what's in it for them. They're trying to skim out personal information from you, or sometimes they pitch it in the realms of your package has been held up at customs because there is additional taxes to pay. Import taxes, for example. This kind of thing will probably actually explode in the near to medium term if President-elect Donny gets his way with tariffs, because then everybody will be expecting, oh shit, now I've got to go pay this import tax that has been levied on wherever the hell that the thing is coming from, because the administration aren't applying these things consistently across the board, or people just aren't staying informed about whose goods from what country are being taxed at what rates, etc. And then it may be a modest amount that they want you to pay, maybe a couple of bucks, but it's not the couple of bucks that they're really after. They're actually after your payment information.
That's the golden goose.
Credit card.
Bingo. Not saying that it's impervious. I want to stress that 6 times. However, it's a hell of a lot easier to extricate a credit card that's been befouled by nefariousness than it is to find money that just got pulled out of your account that's actual money.
Clawing back the actual money that has left your account is an absolute pain in the arse. And it may, if you end up in a scenario where it's significant amounts, for one, you could end up overdrawn, so you could end up owing fees, because also incoming is deregulation of the banking industry, so expect more overdraft fees to be more cavalierly levied. But it's also a matter of, well, if you need that money for your rent or your utility bills or something else, then you're kind of doubly screwed. So always someone else's money, always the credit card company's money. So yeah, I mean, that's really what's in it for them. There's personal information that they can get out of you with these what's the word I'm looking for? Fake impersonation USPS text messages. Or if you're elsewhere in the world, whatever your local postal service is, might be Royal Mail in the UK. I don't know what it is in France, Spain, or screw them. There's no one from France listens to us anyway.
Yeah.
So fake delivery notifications. I would say the number one with this. Okay. Try and remember what it is that you've ordered, and then if you do receive anything, go check the actual tracking information from your delivery confirmation and or invoice, because that's going to be far more reliable than any random text that you're receiving saying that you owe import duties. That is the most concise version of that I can provide.
Yep. Same as what we said for, coincidentally, a couple of the other scams. Go and verify it in another channel to go back to the source. If it's an email telling you about a great deal, go to the entity that's supposedly offering that deal.
Yeah.
If it's anything else, if it's the social media influencer scams, check it out on your own. Open it up in a browser. Take a look at it with an analytical eye. Same here. If it's telling you that there's something wrong with your Amazon shipment, go to Amazon. Amazon will tell you. Again, Got to give the devil their due. One of the things they're really good at is a lot of this logistical shit. They've kind of figured it out a bit, I'd say. They're gonna tell you early. They're gonna tell you often because the last thing they want you to do is to get pissed with the process and hit refund. So they're gonna
Definitely.
try their best to help you out and keep the money that you've handed them. So
Absolutely. And if all fails, and this works for any of these, if in doubt, ask someone else, right? Let me ask you the question, because I heard this in an unrelated context a few days ago. How good are you at taking your own advice as opposed to giving it to others?
Oh, I'm terrible. I'm terrible. That's why I try to not hand out that much, so I'm not as much of a fraud. But I'm very, very much
Here's
very
something
fraud.
that might make you feel a little bit better. Pretty much everybody is like this, and there's quite a good reason, and it's there's evidence for this. There's psychological and sort of peer-reviewed study evidence for this, which basically says everybody is to a certain degree better at giving advice than they are taking their own, because giving advice or providing advice on a sort of like outrospective basis is much easier than applying it to yourself. So
Sure.
the demonstration of this being actually, if you go through your problems in the first person, you say, I have this issue, I have that issue, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do the other. You've got that like internalized to you, and you think about it from all the ways that in your head you say, oh, can't do this, can't do that because of reasons. If you pitch all of those problems in the third person, so for instance, Robin can't do this because of that, Robin can't do this because of the other, you then look at it from you end up looking at it subconsciously from a different perspective, and because you are not considering that person to be you, it's someone else, the solutions come much easier when you then start addressing it in the second person, which is saying, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do the other. And the same thing or similar kind of thing can apply with all of this. People are much better at giving the advice than they are taking their own themselves. So give this to somebody else and say, what do you think? Because you as the recipient going, I'm stumped, I don't know what to do with it. Because it's personal to you.
You're presupposing that I'm going to have a level of self-awareness, which I'm just not capable of at this point in time. But I like the advice. No, on a real note, there's probably, after all this goes on, and especially in this niche, right? This is what we do day to day. I'll follow this stuff probably a little bit more. It's just naturally what our go-to is. But the immediate second next person that I'm asking is my wife. Like, hold on, there's something here. Let me take a look. And she's another great litmus test, right? It's what you're saying. Put it to somebody else, and then they'll give you advice. And if it's a trusted source, then you're off to the races. But makes sense.
Absolutely. So with that in mind, we will round out today's episode and simply say to you during this festive season, please do be careful. Always consider using a credit card, and bear in mind, you can always phone a friend. Stay cyber safe. Until next time.
Adios.